Hello everyone. This is Mr. Aman Bais, Assistant Professor, Department of Science Education from St. Aloysius Institute of Technology, Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh. Today I'm going to start my topic, that is energy flow and nutrient cycles within ecosystem. So let's move forward. So first of all, what do you mean by energy flow within ecosystem? So the existence of flora and fauna in ecosystem depends upon the cycles of mineral and the flow of energy. Energy is needed for all the biotic activities. The only source of this energy is the sun. So this is all about that there is only one source of energy, that is sun, and how it is going to travel throughout the entire biotas or the biological system. So here comes the role of thermodynamics. So the rules of thermodynamics are very important for the understanding of the energy flow. As you can see, the transformation and diffusion of energy in ecosystems are governed by laws of thermodynamics are as follows. The first law of thermodynamics. According to this law, energy can be transformed from one form into another. It can neither be created nor destroyed. So in our case, as we can see, the ultimate energy source is sun, providing the energies at the first place to all the autotrophs, such as the plants and algae and all those who can perform the photosynthesis. Second law of thermodynamics. According to this law, during the process of transformation of energy, some of the transformed energy is diffused from the ecosystem in dispersed form. So this law is telling us about the drainage of the energy when it is being transferred to one form to another. So that is exactly happens in all the biological system when energy is transferred from one trophic level to another trophic level. So here comes the law of 10%, which is given by Lindman in the 1942. According to this law, only a small quantity of stored energy of a trophic level reaches to the next trophic level, such as 90% of the total energy produced is utilized by the producers, or it is wasted by the producers. So remaining 10% of energy reaches to the next trophic level to primary consumer, and this is called the law of 10%, which is given by Lindemann. So one word is continuously coming, that is trophic level. So what do you mean by the trophic level? So various steps of the food chain where food and energy are transferred are called trophic level. So the one level of a food chain, for example, the primary level in the food chain, in any kind of the food chain, the primary levels are consist with the autotrophic organisms or the photosynthetic and organism, or we can call them the producers of that trophic level. After that, the secondary level will come, which is called as the primary consumers, because they are going to consume upon the producers. So in an ecosystem, following trophic levels are present. So we are talking about the possible trophic levels which can be found in an ecosystem. So first trophic level, or it can be told as the T1, it includes plants that functions as producers. So first trophic level is consist with producers. Second trophic level, or the T2, it comprises of herbivorous animals or primary consumers that eat producers. Now the third trophic level, that is T3, it includes carnivorous animals or secondary consumers that eat primary consumers or herbivorous animals. Now the fourth trophic level, it includes top carnivorous or omnivorous that feed on secondary consumers. So according to the law of 10%, in every of the trophic level, only 10% of the stored energy is transferring to the next level. So and the 90% of the energy is going to be utilized, or either is going to be drained from that system. So this is all about the flow of the energy. Now, how that energy is distributed all upon the earth. So the sunlight falling on the earth is distributed in different ways. So it's 50 to 60% is absorbed by atmosphere. So the 100% of the energy coming to the earth, only 50 to 60% is going to be absorbed. Rest of them is going to be emit or going to be returned back, which is non-usable for the Earth's element or the atmosphere. About 10% is utilized in the heating of water. So all our Earth is covered with the water, and the rest of the part is the land. So only 10% energy is going to use for the heating of that water and land, and also for the evaporation of water. Only 8% of light falls on plants, whose most of the part is absorbed in the form of energy. So plants are exposed in the sunlight, and they're getting about 8% of the lights, and most of them part are they are going to absorb in the form of energy. Out of this absorbed portion, only 0.02% energy is used in photosynthesis. So you can see the very minute amount of the energy is conserved or obtained by any of the biological system, which in the form is coming in the form of the photosynthetic process. The organisms of ecosystem depend upon this minute quantity only. Okay, so all of the organism are going to use this much of the energy only. Now this diagram you can see, it is very important. You can see on this left hand side, radiant energy is coming from the sun, and radiation to outer space, that is the 40% of the energy that is not absorbed by the atmosphere. It is radiated, or either waste for us, because it is not going to come to the atmosphere. The absorbed part of radiation you can see directly coming to the producers or the green plants. Okay, so 8% of the energy is coming to there, from which they are only going to absorb about 0.02% of the energy only. So that is the trophic 1 level in the form of the green plants, in the form of producers, and that is also the autotrophic or the primary level. After that, you can see the trophic level second is arranged, third and fourth, so on is arranged there. So in the two are the herbivorous that feed upon the producers. In the three, you can see the primary consumers, sorry, not the primary consumer, primary carnivorous, or the secondary consumers, which is going to feed upon the herbivorous animal. Ultimately, the top carnivorous or the trophic level 4, where the energy is going to reach, is only the 10% of the trophic level 3 as per the law of the Lindemans. Okay, so here is the thing. And among all of the trophic level, in the process of respiration, heat loss is happening, which is not considered as the utilized energy, because much of the energy they are going to drain. And as it has been proved by the Lindemann, that only 10% is passing to next level, rest of the energy is going to directly to the environment, that is not usable. So this is all about the energy flow. Now coming back to the distribution of energy, the producers in the producer system we were, those are the photosynthetic plants. After obtaining energy from the sun, synthesizes organic substances by the process of the photosynthesis. They bind these simple elements. So we are talking about the simple elements. Let us say the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So they are going to bind these simple elements into a complex organic substance. Let's say the example that is glucose, because the end product of the photosynthesis is the glucose, which further going to make another kinds of the carbohydrates which can be conserved by the plant. For example, the starch or the cellulose, which is basically the structural carbohydrate for the plants, and etc. As chemical energy, because now the energy is bound in the glucose, so we are considering it the chemical energy which can further be used by all of those the consumers. If there were no producers, the energy coming from the sunlight cannot be converted into the chemical energy. So this is the first of all, first of kind of conversion we are seeing, which is happening from the sunlight, that is a physical feature, into the chemical bonds or the chemical energy. The total quantity of organic substances synthesized by producers is called gross primary productivity. So we are talking about the total productivity, which is happening, the gross primary productivity. After that, we're going to see that plant is going to use some of this energy for their vital processes or their metabolic activities. Uh, and after that, whatever the percentage is left with the deduction of that respiration or metabolic activity, that will be considered as the net primary productivity that we'll see in the slides. The organic substances synthesized by the producers are also first of all utilized by producers only. That is the fact. They are going to use first of all for themselves only. Then they are going to conserve it in the form of food. So producer utilize the energy in the process of respiration, under which energy is produced, oxidation of organic substances. Okay. So the produced energy is used in the important metabolic processes for growth and development of body, and the remaining organic substances are stored. So as we have already told that some of the energy they are going to use for themselves in the form of the metabolic process or for the growth of their body, and rest of them they are going to use as the storage of food. In this way, the organic substances stored by the producer or energy equivalent to it is called the net primary productivity. So whatever left after the deduction of the respiration now is considered as the net primary productivity. Heterotrophic animals, basically those animals which we are going to which is going to feed upon the producers, are the heterotrophic animals. They are going to obtain their food from the producers, as in the form of primary consumers obtain only a small part of stored food from food material. The small part of this obtained food is utilized in the respiration for energy production, and remaining organic substances are stored in the form of stored food. So the same thing is applied with the primary consumer, except they are not producing any kind of any mean of the energy, because they cannot produce anything. They are not they are not autotrophic. They are the heterotrophic kind of organisms. A small fraction of the food stored in primary consumer is obtained by secondary consumer. Now the primary consumer is fed by the secondary consumer, so the same thing is happening. Only 10% of the transfer of energy is happening. 90% of the things are draining, either for the respiration or either in the form of the heat. By repeating this sequence, some food in the end goes into the tertiary consumer from secondary consumer. So you can see finally we have reached to the trophic level 4. Due to the stored substances, there is increase in the biomass of whole community is called secondary productivity. Okay. So when too much of the storage or the stored substances are seen in the in any of the community, so what do we call it? We call it secondary productivity. So we have to keep one thing in the mind, that the secondary productivity is not directly obtained by the autotrophs. Okay, so, or the autotrophic method, because they are not doing the photosynthesis. They are just getting that energy from other producers or the primary consumers. Only a small quantity of stored energy of the trophic level reaches to the next trophic level, such as 90% of total energy produced is utilized by the producers only, as per the law of the Lindman's 10%. Remaining 10% of the energy reaches to the next trophic level to primary consumer, and this is called the law of 10% Lindman. So now we go move to the next slide, which is the nutrient cycles within ecosystem. So in the previous slides, we have completed the energy flow. We have understood about the energy flow, how all these things are happening, all that energy, the primary and the ultimate source from the sun, the energy coming, and it is bound in the form of the chemical energy, which is going further to several of the trophic levels. And we are seeing what is the percentage they are using for their own purpose and what the percentage they are using for stored purposes. Now our next topic is that nutrient cycles within ecosystem. So first of all, we have to understand what are the nutrients. So numerous elements which are essential for life of organisms are considered as the nutrients. So plant absorbs various nutrient elements along with water from soil. So basically the soil is the plenty source for the availability of the nutrient. Some elements such as carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogens. So that is CHON. So these are the very primarily elements which is required for any of the biological organisms are present as gases, and hydrogen and oxygen in the form of the water. So they are available in the form of such things, or either they are directly gases or they are bound in a water, that is H2O. So how the plant is going to use them or the organism is going to use them? Before going to there, we have to understand that there is a categorization in which the macro nutritive elements and the micro nutritive elements are separate. So for the macronutrient element, this group includes those elements which are the main components of protoplasm and are needed in large quantities. So examples are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, sodium, potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, and sulfur. So large quantity is required by the organism for conducting the vital activities are categorized into the macronutritive elements. Now coming to the micronutritive elements, as the name suggests, micro, only small amount is required. So this group includes those elements which are essentially needed for life, but in a very small quantity. So the word coming essentially explains that uh, their quantity is very less needed, but they are very, very important. So the examples are iron, copper, manganese, fluorine, zinc. It's zinc. Okay, this is not giant. Zinc, boron, molybdenum, cobalt, vanadium, etc. So this is the basic categorization. Now, now we have to understand what kind of cycles we can see of the nutrients in the environment, which is going to be used by the biological system, and how they are going to liberated, how they're going to bound it again, and then again they are liberated. That makes a cycle of those same elements. Okay, so first category is the atmospheric cycles, which suggests that it has something or everything to involve with the atmosphere or the gases. So you can see the hydrological cycle, oxygen cycle, and the carbon cycle falls under atmospheric cycle. Oxygen, carbons, both of them are the gases. In the hydrological cycle, you can see hydrogen itself a gas, and oxygen is associated with, is already mentioned that it's a gas. In edaphic nutrient cycles, it includes the cycles of nitrogen, which is available in the soil, phosphorus again from the soil, sulfur comes from soil, calcium we can find in the soil, and other mineral elements. So this categorization suggests us that the atmospheric cycles are basically relevant with the gases, while the other edific nutrient cycle is relevant with the minerals which is found in or associated with the soil. Now, our first cycle of the major component, that is carbon, you can see on the screen. uh, we have discussed about the energy flow. So you can see the ultimate source is mentioned is the sunlight. So the sunlight is there, and the carbon dioxide, carbon with the oxygen, carbon dioxide is coming together in the process of photosynthesis, where the green plants containing the chlorophyll is going to conserve that energy, that physical energy, into the chemical energy. So that is the first level. Okay. Now, after the decayation of the organisms, or the rotting of the organisms, the carbon is needed to be liberated from their body. Same goes with the animals also. So you can see animals in the process of respiration are releasing carbon dioxide. So that is one form of the carbon dioxide is going to the environment, which will associate with this environmental carbon dioxides, again participate in the process of the photosynthesis. But after the death of their body, they all are going to become the dead organisms and the waste product, which is going to be degraded. If they are degraded in a proper way, they can be turned into the fossils and the fossil fuels, and they can be sent to auto and the factory emissions or the vehicles as a fuel. Otherwise, their rotten part is going to liberate, the carbon is going to liberate from there and directly be absorbed by another of the plants. Okay, so directly the plants are going to absorb, or the root respiration we can be seen in some of the plants where the carbon is utilized at this place, and after that these plant is going to perform the respiration, in which they are going to release the carbon dioxide, which is going to associate with the carbon dioxide already found in the atmosphere, which will participate with the photosynthesis. So you can see this cycle is going on in a proper manner, and the carbon is balanced in this way. Okay, so hope you understand that this start from here and again ended here, then going on in a cycle. Now going to the next cycle, that is the oxygen cycle. So we know that oxygen is associated with two of the major compounds, which is very important. That is the one is the water, that is H2O. Another one is the carbon dioxide. So you can see in the form of carbon dioxide, oxygen is there. In the form of water, oxygen is there, and they are produced in the process of respiration. So there is one thing to keep in mind, that the respiration and photosynthesis are actually the mirror image to each other. So in the photosynthesis, we are using the carbon dioxide and the water and forming the oxygen and glucose. Same in the cellular respiration, we can see the glucose we are taking, oxygen we are inhaling, the oxidation is taking place there. After that, energy we are getting, and release of the carbon dioxide and water is taking place. So you can see these two things are produced after respiration, participated in the photosynthesis. What they form? They form oxygen, that is in the liberated form, atmospheric oxygen, obviously by the plants, and the conserved food, they have conserved or stored the food in form of glucose, which is intake by the other animals, and they went through the process of respiration, or itself plants can directly go to the process of respiration, which has been made clear during the discussion of the energy flow. So it is very simple to understand. Now moving to the next cycle, which is the nitrogen cycle. So nitrogen cycle cannot be categorize only into the atmospheric or only into the edific category. Okay, because nitrogen's involvement we can see in the biological organism and coming to the contact of the soil very much, and also in the weather, also in the atmosphere very much. So you can see most of the part of the atmosphere is which gas? Obviously, it is the nitrogen. So atmospheric nitrogen is there, which is going to be fixed by some of the organism, which will be known as the nitrogen fixation. So you can see nitrogen fixation is happening. These are the leguminaceae plant. Okay, so nitrogen fixing bacteria living in the legumes of the root nodules are fixing that nitrogen. Again, the second type of the N-fixation or the ammonification is that some of the ammonifying bacteria just absorbing the nitrogen and conserving it in the form of the various compounds of the nitrogen. So these are the nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay. What happened after these nitrogen fixing bacteria releases ammonia? Okay, so their waste product nitrogen always goes out with in the form of the waste product, and ammonia cannot be considered as the very good of the element which can reside inside any of the biological organism for too much of the time. It is required continuously to remove from the body of the any of the biological organism, which is same thing is happening because they are releasing this nitrogen in the form of the ammonium ion. Again, the nitrifying bacteria is going to capture this ammonia, which consists with the nitrogen, and they are going to make the nitrites from this one. Okay, so you can see the nitrites are formed. So that is known as the nitrification. After that, nitrifying bacteria further getting the nitrites and converting it into the nitrates. And the good thing about the nitrate is that it can directly, you can see, it can directly be assimilated by the plants. It can directly be assimilated by the plants, and the plants we can, the animals can feed and get that nitrogen. To balance the atmospheric nitrogen, there is one entity found, that is denitrifying bacteria. This denitrifying bacteria is now going to liberate that nitrogen from the oxygen, and the N2 will release in the atmosphere again. So the cycle, first of all, the cycle completes here, but the intermediate things is not clear. Okay, so I'm just going with the ammonium again, coming back to the ammonium. So ammonium can directly be absorbed by the plant, and after that, what the plant will do? Amino acids and proteins in plants and animals. Okay, so from the plant decomposers, a best decomposer, decomposers are very best and very mandatory. So you can see the fungi are there. They are just absorbing that nitrogen and fixing it in the form of good kind of amino acid, good kind of the protein. That is why, that is the reason the mushrooms are consumed, because they are rich with protein, and protein is formed by one of the element, that is the nitrogen. Okay, so you can see now this decomposer they get. After decomposers are conserving, which can be fed by the animals. If they are not fed by the animals, they are going to they are going to decay upon this soil, and going to release this again in the form of the ammonium, which can be further incorporated with the cycle. So I don't think this is very much of a tough kind of a cycle. It is very easy if you just focus upon this diagram as the step I have just suggested. Now moving forward, this one is the phosphorus cycle. So we all those elements which is very important for the running of any of the biological organisms are discussed only here. Many other cycles of the micronutrient we have not discussed. Phosphorus forms the ATP of any of the biological organism. which is also known as to conserve that chemical energy inside the biological organism. And biological organism uses those energy in the form of the ATP, or mainly the breakdown of the phosphorus bond gives them the energy. That is why the phosphorus is very, very important element of any of the biological organism. So you can see the phosphorus is conserved in the rocks, which is coming out from the rocks and getting mixed in the soil. So two of the sources are mentioned here. So the run of the rocks are going with the rivers or the lakes and the streams. Okay, so this is releasing this phosphorus into the inorganic phosphate, which is further trapped in the rock or in a soil, is now liberated in inorganic phosphate, which can directly be absorbed by the plants. So you can see in here, you can see the plants are doing the absorption to which the inorganic phosphate, which is going to get in the form of the phosphate. Okay, so phosphorus is going to um, react with the oxygen and going to make the phosphate group, which is easily to find in any of the biological organism. After that, plants are consumed by the animals. Okay, so the consumption is happening here, and whatever the phosphate they are getting, they are conserving in the form of the ATP. ATP is the currency of energy inside the biological organ. So we have discussed in the energy flow that sun is giving us a lot of light, but we can only use it after the plant is going to conserve it. Where plant conserves it, it conserves it in the phosphate bond. Okay, so the metabolism is happening. After that metabolism, we can get the ATP. Okay, and the ATP is the currency. Now, after that, when the animal or the plant or any of the biological organism lives their life, they are ultimately going to die and disintegrate. So the disintegration and the decomposition is going to liberate this phosphate, and which is going to again mix in the soil, going to form the rocks and any other things. So that is how phosphorus cycle runs. So these are the major geo mineral cycles, which is very important for any of the biological system to run, and very crucial for any of the ecosystems to run with. So this is the reference. You can see the EPODM book, and the one of the slide, the diagram is taken from this link. You can visit. Thank you so much.